Handcuffed in the car, sirens flashing in the dark. I was caught red-handed, painting on the walls. I wrote it so big, I made it so tall. Big block letters, you're my letter to the block. Roll up, 10,000 flyers. I wrote it for us, the survivors. Cause after Wall Street's big gold rush, we were the ones left in the gold dust. In love we trust.
Hello, and welcome to Radiant Spirit, a podcast about self-love and living your most authentic life. Now, I am Jennifer Gibbons, and before I get too much into this, that is MC Yogi behind me. That is the track In Love We Trust on the album Only Love Is Real. We'll be finishing that out at the end of this podcast. But for now, like I said, I'm Jennifer Gibbons, and this is my partner, Matthew Busse, joining me today again. Yay, thank you for being here.
Hello.
And so, yeah, last week we got went on a different track and shared the story of Sharkbait and his origin story, which totally taken it to new weird levels that I did not expect sharing on this platform. But keeping it on that note and really just leaning into being as authentic as we freaking can be, and why are we hiding these things that we're afraid of being maybe judged by society because it seems a little weird or whatever, but hell, it's real, it's authentic. Let's talk about it. So there were some really crazy things that going on in both of our lives individually around the time that we met. And Matthew's here to share with us some of the cool things that were going on, your spiritual downloads that were happening while I was, talking to Sharkbait.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk about how I first started hearing my guides, my spirit guides, and how crazy that was at first. It first happened the first time I heard voices from my spirit guides. It was totally out of the blue, totally unexpected. I was hiking out in the redwoods here, up in Prairie Creek Redwood State Park.
I like the scenery we're here for.
Right.
Setting the scene.
Yeah. And I was out there hiking by myself, and it was near the end of my hike. I was coming back on my way back to my car, and as I was following the trail back to my car, there was a little side trail on an offshoot. And as I was walking back, it looked like this little trail was illuminated by the light coming through the forest canopy. So it looked like there was these dots of light leading off the path down this little side path. Not an official trail, but like a little side trail that went off. And so I noticed this, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. So I followed this little side trail off, and it went not very far, maybe 20-30 feet off, and stopped right in front of a giant old growth redwood tree. And so I decided to stop and meditate there in front of the tree. So I took my pack off and took my shoes off and got settled in a nice little meditation seat in front of the tree. And as soon as I sat down there and got settled, I just felt this kind of jolt of energy rush through my body. And then I heard this voice in my head, like an actual voice, this deep, gravelly voice that said, "Be still, my child." And I was alone out in the woods. I was like, what was that? And kind of rattled me a little bit, because I'd never had an experience like that before. And the mosquitoes were kind of bad, so I kind of just packed up my stuff and left right away, and got back in my car. And as I was driving home, I just had this feeling, this knowing that was an archangel that talked to me. And that was really unusual for me to have that thought, because I didn't really know anything about archangels at that point. I mean, I was raised Lutheran, as I think we talked about earlier, but it was Lutheran Protestants. They don't really go into that archangel stuff too much, and so I had heard of them, but I didn't really know anything about them. Certainly didn't feel any kind of connection to them or any kind of significance around them. But like I said, I just had this feeling that was an archangel who talked to me. And also, I guess I should provide some context at this point. This is when I was getting involved with the Abbey of the Redwoods, and I was filming their church services on Sunday. So I was regularly going to church to help with the filming. And so I was at the time, it was bringing up all these questions of Christianity with me, and I was, re-examining my relationship to the church and God and all that stuff. So this, I mean, that was going on at this time. But again, in those services, there was no talk of archangels or anything. Um, and so, but that was, and it was an interesting thing to say, that this phrase, "Be still, my child," because that was the exactly the type of patriarchal stuff from the church that was really bugging me. And as I was re-examining my relationship to the church, I was noticing there's all this super patriarchal stuff like that. And so it seemed like a really weird thing, really weird message for me to get. And so after that, I wanted to learn more about archangels, because like I didn't really know anything about them. So I looked, I searched on Audible for an audiobook about them, because I often like to listen to audiobooks. And the first entry that came up on Audible was this book called Angels and Archangels, A Magician's Guide by, oh, I can't remember the name of the author now. But I was like, a magician's, I don't know about, but I looked at the description, and it said it gave kind of a background and a history of archangels, and that's really what I wanted. Wasn't so much into the magic stuff, but it seemed like it was going to give me that background that I was looking for. So I ordered it, and that was really how I started learning more about at least one context of archangels. And the way it was presented in this book related the archangels in terms of the four cardinal directions, so north, east, south, and west. North corresponding to earth, east air, south fire, west water. And that stuff really appealed to me, because I'd from past experiences, I'd felt a certain resonance with the four cardinal directions and the four elements, and I'd felt those before in a meditation. So that stuff really definitely resonated with me. So I kept listening to that book and kind of reading some more stuff online about archangels. And I came to realize that first archangel who talked to me was the Archangel Michael, who represents the south and the element of fire. And I think that the reason he said that to me, "Be still, my child," he was like fucking with me, because he knew that stuff was bothering me. And so it was like an inside joke. And as I got to become more familiar with Archangel Michael, he definitely has a sense of humor like that.
Isn't
And
it funny how that's been kind of consistent also, like that yeah, like that joking mannerism is almost like how oh, that's legit.
right, yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
And so yeah, that was the first time that I had that experience of hearing an actual voice in my head of an archangel communicating with me. And I didn't really know what to do with it at that time, so I hadn't really heard much about channeling at that point. And the first person I told about it was the pastor at the Abbey, or the abbot at the Abbey of the Redwoods. I told him about this experience I had, and the only thing he said about it was, "Be careful who you tell that to." So that was the only thing he said about it. And so, I mean, that definitely made me feel like it's something I should not talk about too much, because it definitely is a weird idea, or a lot of sane, quote unquote sane, rational people are going to think that if you're hearing voices, you're losing your mind and going crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
and so I was definitely, for a while I didn't know what to do with this this thing happening, because I didn't know what to do. So I didn't really pursue it too much, except some reading about it.
And this was also during the pandemic. So everyone's on lockdown. It's not like your social circles or friends you can
Right.
get together and talk about this with. Not really happening. And you just moved to this area. So you
Yeah.
literally knew nobody except
um,
for the church.
yeah, so
People through
people
the
I met
church.
through
Yeah.
the church. Yeah, so I guess, I should back up. This is about the summer of 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was the week after the summer solstice that it happened. I do remember that.
Oh, yeah. I remember when you told me, yeah, or when you mentioned these things were happening, and nobody showed up besides the two of us for a meditation at the Abbey one day. And I don't remember how exactly you mentioned it, but I remember thinking, "Oh my God, you two, we have to talk about this."
Yeah.
So, yeah, but didn't mean to interrupt. Continue on.
Yeah.
It was around the summer. It was the midsummer. Yeah.
Mhm. And then a little bit after that, can't remember how much, maybe a month or two later, there was another one of those the flea markets at the Abbey where I was selling my photography, you were selling your herbal products, and I made my first sale there, so I was super excited. And I was stopping for a burrito on the way home afterwards, and I saw this homeless guy in the corner near the burrito shop. His name was Rick. He was there. He was a fixture in Arcata,
Mhm.
and at the time, I remember, I was feeling all happy and excited because I made my first photography sale. And then I saw this homeless guy and was reminded of all the suffering in the world. And this notion from Matt Kahn came to me. He talked about how, if you're feeling sad about all the pain and sadness, and suffering in the world, if there's someone in front of you you can help, then help them. And so I'm like, I'm going to buy this guy a burrito. I'm feeling generous. Pay it forward. And so I got an extra burrito and I gave it to him, and he was super grateful, super happy about it. And he was like, hold on, I want to give you a present in return." And so he asked me to sit down. He had a little seat there because he was set up on the corner. He would wave signs and wave at people and play music. He's like, I want to play you a song. And he had this little seat set up. So I'm like, okay. So I sat down, and but first, before the song, he's like, I want to tell you something. This is the most important thing that I know. And he started reciting this letter that was written by a monk who lived in the area hundreds of years ago, back during the Spanish colonial times. But it was a letter from the monk written to his brother monks, and it was very, at first the language was very formal. It was obviously, it was something he had memorized, and it was reciting it from memory. It had all this formal language, and it was talking about how that tough times were coming, and there was going to be trials and tribulations, and it's important to keep your faith strong, keep doing. And then the message kind of devolved, and that's when then I realized later he started channeling an archangel, because these words just started coming through him,
Mhm.
that kind of these words flowing through, and it wasn't the same formal language, but it was all these messages again about you're doing the right thing, you're exactly where you need to be. And I needed to hear that at the time. And
And did his voice shift?
oh yeah, his voice
Yeah.
definitely shifted, and it became that kind of same deep gravelly voice.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that whole, and he went on for a while, and I was like, wow. And I could like feel something again, feel like this energy coming through. And yeah, that was really, really amazing. Another powerful experience. And so yeah, and I figured out later that I think that was the archangel Raphael who was
Mm.
talking to me, who represents the east and the element of air, because it was very wordy, and he also represents the intellect, the mind, and the communication. And so made sense that there was this very long, wordy message that came through. So that was the second time that an archangel talked to me. And then the third time was maybe again, or was it a whole year later?
No, it
Oh,
was
okay.
it was really short after, when your wings, like when you were told to
Yeah.
spread your wings.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
It was like a month later.
Okay. Yeah. So again, it was like a month later.
Yeah.
I was giving a workshop at the Star Vibes Music Festival, and as I was there, it was at the opening night ceremony, their very first set. Well, I guess, yeah, before the opening ceremony, I got there and I was setting up my camp next to some other people, setting up my tent and stuff. And this woman came by who I didn't know. She was friends with some people who were near me, and she came by, and there was a big feather on the ground, and she picked it up and
Mm.
put it in my hat.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then later, I was wearing that hat to the opening ceremony, and this other woman walked by and looked at that and said, "You've been touched by an angel."
Mm.
And when she said that, I just felt like, you know, like chills and electricity through my body. I was like, "Whoa, touched by an angel." That's kind of random. And then right after the opening ceremony, it was the first dance set, and they're dancing to music, getting lost because I love to dance and just get lost in the music. And after a while, I thought it was part of the song. I started hearing this voice. It's saying, it seemed like it's part of the song, kind of saying over and again, it's time to spread your wings. It's time to spread your wings. And then while I was there dancing, I felt this sensation of wings spreading from my back. And that was another really kind of like, wow, this is really weird.
I think that was what you shared with me, because
Yeah.
I had filled in for you and led meditation while you were gone that week
And
at Star Vibes. And I had been having dreams, waking up in the middle of the night for like 6 to 8 months prior to that. Right. Yeah. Like I was waking up always telling my now ex-husband, like, my back is itching. I can't get it. I keep having these dreams that my wings are trying to spread. My wings are trying to get out. And yeah, so I was having a totally different experience, but when you told me about spreading your wings and feeling it, I could feel my wings, and I was like, whoa, oh my God, we were meant to find each other.
Yeah.
This is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So then you
Yeah.
were I think only the second person I told about all this stuff. And then, yeah, you said that you were having these similar experiences. I'm like, oh, maybe I'm not just crazy. Because I was definitely wondering if I was starting to lose my
Mhm.
mind
Yeah,
and
me too.
just totally hallucinating all of this. Because I mean, I have a PhD in molecular biology. I was trained as a scientist, so I was very much, still kind of have that scientific mindset, and just to be having these experiences that I couldn't explain. I was kind of like, am I is this the start of a psychotic episode or something?
Yeah.
But then when you said you were having those same experiences, I'm like, oh, maybe I'm not so crazy.
There was something about one of the things that was channeled through Rick, that wonderful homeless man who's unfortunately no longer with us, but there was something word for word and verbatim. I had written that down in my I do a exercise, a meditation exercise I refer to as spirit writing, and it's just dropping in and letting your pen just flow. And something you said about that channeled message was verbatim what I had written down, and I went, oh my God, we're on the same spirit team. And I remember telling my now ex-husband, exactly, like, all about that. Like, there is something going on here, that there's a connection that's undeniable. Yeah, pretty incredible stuff.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
still at that point, our connection was totally not romantic. There was no
No,
romance to it
no.
at all.
We were just thinking we were both losing our minds together.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. And
yeah.
somehow found ourselves led to the Abbey of the Redwoods, which I know for either one of us,
Yeah. It was
we
really,
had a lot
really,
of church wounds. To
yeah.
find either one of us on the premises of a church was really weird. Yeah, so
Yeah,
that
no,
was really
definitely.
strange.
Yeah. And in retrospect, it seems like we were both drawn to the Abbey just to meet
Mhm.
each other.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, things work in weird ways.
Gotta just trust the universe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that time at Star Vibes, that was the third time an archangel talked to me, and that was the archangel Gabriel, I think, now in retrospect. So definitely it was a feminine voice.
That makes
it was a
sense.
lighter feminine voice. It wasn't a deep gravelly voice again. Um, yeah, so that was the third time, and then that was it for a while, because then, yeah, the summer ended, and then winter came, and then it was like the January after that you and I started becoming more than just friends.
Yeah.
Um, and then and also, yeah, and started exploring this channeling stuff more. And then I think during that time I started listening to Lee Harris more, and he talks a lot about channeling. He channels his guides, so that was starting to normalize it more for me. And then also belonging to his Facebook group, which is full of people talking about their experiences with channeling. So this is something more that is happening on a wider and wider scale. More and more people are receiving messages from beings from other dimensions, and so yeah, that's part of the evolution, the ascension that's happening on Earth right now. Is that veil is getting thinner, and more people are open to having experiences like these.
Yeah. And I love how your connection with the archangels is so prominent, and now has evolved. And I know there's a lot of energies we call in on our space. Mine is a little bit different, and the deities that come to me are definitely, they're not the archangels, although we've overlapped and we honor all of those energies in our space. I have different deities from all over that come to me from yeah. I don't know if I should even go through listing them all, but yeah,
That could be a whole other
that's a
episode.
whole other episode. But it's they represent very similar. There's the same energy that it's all representing. It just comes to me in very
Right.
different ways. But when you map it all together, it's same.
Yeah, that idea
Yeah,
of the four cardinal directions and the
yeah,
four elements, that notion precedes all religions and all that's present in many indigenous
hmm,
religions and indigenous beliefs across the planet. There's something very universal about that idea
absolutely.
of connecting with the divine, or connecting with other dimensions through that paradigm of
Yeah.
the four directions and the four elements. Or you could
Or
see,
even think five if you want
yeah,
to
or
include the
six, yeah,
ethers.
this
Yeah, oh yeah,
above
and
and
the
below,
Pachamama
yeah.
below. Absolutely, yeah.
But right. But yeah, but that's definitely a universal pattern that for me came out through the archangels. For you, came out through other deities but that represented those different
Yeah,
elements.
same
Yeah.
energy behind it, same
Mhm.
energy. I think for myself, like Michael was the first that came to you. Matcha, who is raven shape shifting goddess, representing that fire element for me as well. Protection, that fire element is like, oh, they're representing the same direction. It's just a totally different way of honoring that and celebrating it. And I also love that when we came together by just embracing what is coming through for both of us, the look of what our shared altar space and ceremony space looks like, it's like a perfect, complete, beautiful rainbow. um it's magnificent. Maybe when we do ceremony we'll have to take photos,
Mhm.
although I'm a little reluctant to share photos of ceremony, but I think for this space it might be a good idea to take a picture and share what that looks like. It's pretty beautiful.
Sure. Yeah.
Little side tangent there. Anyways, um,
Yeah. Yeah. And so then I think it was sometime during the next spring. Also, one thing I should at some point I figured out that uh, like a month before I had that first experience in the redwoods, I was talking with my therapist, and she was the first person that introduced that idea of guides to me. Like, because she said something about you can call on your guides for help and support, and I was like, what do you mean? Because I never heard about that before. And she said, yeah, you just have to ask for it. You just have to ask for their help, and they'll start helping you. So I I realized later that after that, the new moon after that, I'd written down as a wish, I'd wished for my guides to contact me. And then I totally forgot about that because I didn't really believe it was going to happen, didn't really think about it too much. And I wrote this down, just forgot about it. And then later discovered that I wrote that down less than a month before it happened. Not when I figured that out, I was like, wow, that's kind of weird.
like within that moon cycle. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's so freaking rad. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, ask and you shall receive.
Right, yeah. So
Yeah,
so anyone out there listening, if this idea is appealing to you and you want to get in touch with your guides, you literally just have to ask,
yeah,
whether write it down or make it more of a formal wish or a request, or but just express that wish to the universe.
right. And it's
And
really like, as if you're feeling it in your heart and you genuinely mean it, ask
or
and you
even
shall
even if you
receive.
don't mean it, even
Right.
like for me, I didn't mean it. I was just like, yeah, whatever, I'll write this down because my therapist said so. But
Yeah, that's true.
yeah,
It's
so
like I've always
even
put so
if
much intent
yeah,
behind
no, even
everything.
if
Yeah.
you don't believe it, even if you're like, yeah, whatever,
Try it.
yeah, try it. You may be surprised at what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah. We all have spirit teams.
Yeah.
We totally do. Yeah. And like the whole patriarchal, like, influence of the church, I think that's what is so frustrating, I think, for both of us, is
Yeah.
that what we witness in the church is like this power saying you don't have direct access to your guides, you have to go through us and pay us money to do it. That's the
Yeah.
bullshit behind it. So, all for
Yeah.
the fellowship, but that
Most,
message,
most
no.
organized religion has been
It's
corrupted
bullshit.
by people who want to control others and use that to actively prevent people from making their own connections to the divine or to their guides.
But it's
Yeah,
all within us.
right.
We have direct access anytime. Doesn't need to be a Sunday, and you don't need some church official to make that connection for you.
Right.
It is
Yeah.
all
No.
within you.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Most organized religions try to control that connection to the
Mm,
divine and try
mhm.
to make people believe that they can only find that connection through the priesthood, through
Mhm.
uh, some kind of order of people that's not a normal person that you have to pay money to or support somehow in order to make that connection for you. That's one of the biggest sins of all organized religion.
Yeah. 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 And I think, like, for myself, how you talk about, like, the irony of where the way Archangel Michael came to you the first time, and be still my child. You're like, oh, come on, fuck off.
Yeah,
No. Like, of all things to say,
right.
I felt like the deities coming through to me, where it was in a way where I felt like, oh my God, I can't tell anybody. If I definitely mentioned this to my family, and I was, like I've shared before, raised in a Christian household. Um, if I shared this with them, they would think I'm evil, like, because it wasn't. If I had said, "Oh, the archangels are coming through to me," oh yeah, maybe it's particularly my dad. Oh, um, but these particular deities would almost be frowned upon by
Oh
the
yeah.
way I was raised, like, yeah, as evil. It's really interesting, really interesting. The challenges and the tests we're faced with
Oh yeah.
when we
And
do have something like that coming through.
yeah, because
It's
definitely the mainstream idea in our culture is that that kind of stuff is weird or crazy or not.
yeah,
Or if you have those experiences, you're crazy.
right.
Yeah.
I totally thought, oh my God, if I tell my family this, they are going to lock me in a padded room faster than I can blink. Uh, yeah,
Yeah.
fortunately, that's not what went down.
Yeah, but yeah, so
Yeah.
back to the story. So yeah, so those three events all happened in a summer within this period of a few months of each other, and then didn't hear anything for a while. We got in the winter, and you and I started developing our relationship, and then I think it was my therapist again. I mentioned to her some of those experiences, and she said if I want to explore that more, she recommended a great book called "Opening to Channel."
Yes.
Yeah, by I can't remember the authors of those either. But
I'll put
yeah,
links on that. Yeah.
um, Dwayne Packer and Sonia something, or
Yes.
but anyway, yeah. So I started reading that book, and that book has explains a lot more about channeling and what it is, and gives some exercises for uh, how to how to channel more. And I remember one day we sat down one Sunday morning. You sat down and led me through some of those exercises to purposefully connect with my guides. And yeah, I remember those were really powerful exercises. And I remember as it was happening, I've there's some guided prompts that lead you through to invite your guides to contact you. I remember sitting there, I felt compelled to face south
Mhm.
and imagine that same giant ancient redwood tree in front of me where Michael first contacted me through. And so I was sitting there in your living room just
Mhm.
on a Sunday morning. Um, and yeah, I remember like visualizing that and feeling, and then finally, and then like it did, that connection came through again. And it wasn't quite the same. I didn't hear the voice in my head, but the voice came through me,
Mhm.
came through my voice. And that's what the exercises guided you to do, to allow your guides to speak through your voice. And I remember again that energetic rushing sensation as he connected with me, and then hearing these words come out of my mouth that I wasn't choosing to speak. And I know you've had that experience where
Oh yeah.
these words just start coming through that you're not consciously choosing, and they're kind of surprising. You're like, oh wow.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that was the first time that I consciously connected with my guides and channeled my guides without just happening sporadically. And I guess I should say that was also the first time. The previous experiences I had, I was under the influence of cannabis. So I guess for full disclosure, I should say that. And I think cannabis and other psychoactive plants can help make that connection easier at first, because it can help quiet the rational mind that doesn't believe it's possible. But so now that Sunday morning, that was the first time totally free of any substances where I channeled and made that connection. And then that became a part of my daily morning practice, just to check in with my guides and channel my guides. And yeah, so then it's expanded a lot from there. So yeah, now I've learned, I've met lots of other guides, several other guides, other archangels, other deities, other ascended masters from Eastern traditions, philosophies. Even the Greek god Apollo is one of my guides.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah, and so yeah, so it's just kind of expanded from there. And yeah, and for a while I was trying to help other people connect with their guides. Oh, and also I took an online course from Kyle Gray, who's well known more so in England and Europe as the angel whisperer.
Yes.
And I took his course, and that was really that. Again, it was more kind of validating and normalizing this experience, because there was hundreds of other people in this course having the same experiences of connecting to archangels. And through that course, I became a certified angel guide. And so for a while, I started trying to help other people connect to their guides. And right after that course, I went on Lee Harris's Facebook group again and offered to lead people in connecting with their guides to a one-on-one session for free. And I got a big response in that. And so I did like about a dozen of those over the next 2 weeks. And yeah, everyone that I guided through was able to connect to their guides and receive messages from their guides. And so that was really kind of cool. Again, that was that population of people are already very open to that idea. The people who follow Lee Harris are already, again, because he talks so much about channeling and leads people through to connect to their guides. So again, that was a population of people that are very open to that. But I think more and more we're reaching a time where people who previously thought all this stuff was crazy are going to be able to start connecting to their guides and start hearing messages. And most of the messages, I'm sure you can relate to this, it's not a lot of specifics. I mean, sometimes you can ask them for guidance, but it's not a lot of specifics. It's mostly stuff just to make you feel better about yourself.
Yeah, it feels like your own personal cheerleading squad.
Yeah.
And it seems like as it starts off and it's just, oh, I made connection, and you can identify the one energy, like, okay, yeah, and then it becomes just a handful of energies, but before you know it, you have a whole team of cheerleaders just encouraging you to be the best version of yourself you can be. And that's it. And I think that's what we all need. Yeah. Yeah, and love Lee Harris. Love that we get the blessing of being able to listen to the messages that he channels through, just for giving general guidance, as people who are awake and aware of these energies around us, and how to navigate that with the just craziness that happening in our world right now. How to really
all the pain and suffering, how to handle all the pain and suffering, and the messages of division that are spread to us through so many different channels in our culture.
Yeah, those messages Lee Harris channels from the Z's, those are his 88 energies, spirit energies, that are all channeled through him in the one time. That I feel like has helped me be able to step back and see the bigger picture, instead of being so caught up in my own personal story and wanting to react that way, and just kind of seeing where humanity is evolving, and take it away from being upset about whatever personal thing is happening with me individually. Yeah. Good stuff. Anyway, just a little shout out to Lee Harris and the Z's there, but yeah.
Yeah, and so in retrospect, part of a big factor that led me to start hearing my guides is I was so before Lee Harris, I was big on Matt Kahn,
Mhm.
which is he's a self-love teacher, and
Awesome.
yeah,
Love him.
with yeah,
Yeah.
and I had made a lot of his teachings part of my daily practice, mostly just loving myself and spending time every day saying I love you to myself, and imagining feeling love and energy pouring into my heart. So I've been doing that for a while, and I think doing that every day is what helped change my frequency so that I was
Mhm.
able to hear my guides. And so that's where it all comes back to love and
Yeah.
self-love, that by giving myself love daily, that's what helped me. I don't like to use the word raise, because I don't like the notions of higher and lower, because there's all kinds of judgment that comes with
Mhm.
that. There's all this talk about raising your vibrations and vibrating higher, and in some sense that's true, but it's like that leads to all kinds of judgment.
Right.
And so I like to think of it more just loving myself just changed my vibration,
Yeah.
changed my frequency. It's like a dial on a radio station. 96.2 isn't better than 88.1. It's just a different station, right?
Yeah.
Even though by the way we think of it, it's higher, it's a higher number, but
Yeah.
it's not better. It's not inherently a better station. So I think when you talk about vibration and frequency, I think that's a better way to think about it rather than higher and lower. Because like I said, that leads to all kinds of spiritual egotism and thinking, oh,
Mhm.
people who are asleep are less than, or you know, asleep in quotes, or so, and there's just that kind of judgment, and that's more programming from our culture seeping
Mhm.
into spirituality. So again, a little tangent, but I like to think of it just changing your vibration or changing your frequency rather than raising or lowering.
That's a good reminder for me, especially coming off of a family week-long family vacation. I needed that reminder. Like, yeah, we're all just vibrating differently.
Yeah,
It's
it's not
okay.
inherently better or worse.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Good reminder. Thank you for that.
It's just different.
Yes, yes.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I think I don't know how long have we been talking. It's like
I don't, I mean, it doesn't really matter. I'm so glad that you had the time today to share your amazing experiences and how that all shifted for you. I love the direction that this is taking, where we can kind of normalize this stuff that I know
right.
between you and I've been like, can we tell anybody? I don't think we should tell anybody.
Yeah,
We're just going to get dismissed completely.
yeah, but you might be surprised. Like I was able to tell my family, and they were very supportive of it, which was
Us too.
encouraging. Yeah,
Yeah. And amazingly, they haven't locked me up yet.
yeah. So
My
again,
family anyway.
yeah. So if for all you listeners out there, if this is resonating with you, or it's piquing your interest, or you're feeling like some kind of energy around that, definitely explore that. And on our
Yeah.
website, there are some guided meditations to that I recorded, or I think you recorded also,
A
or
little bit of
recorded
both.
together. Yeah, that guide you through the process of opening to connect to your guides.
Yep, all of that. And also, like you were talking about, where it started, where you noticed the shift in yourself as far as just that practice of showing yourself love, saying I love you to yourself. There are some great guided meditations out there. My favorite on that, which is where I really felt a shift, and I got the pleasure of doing this in person, but there is one in particular, and I believe the titling is The Inner Child, maybe guided meditation, but it is imagining you're holding to your chest either an infant, a puppy, a kitten, something you can love so unconditionally, like so much more than you could imagine loving yourself, and visualizing that in your heart center. That was a really powerful one for me. I will try to make a point to find that and put the link on in our description on this particular podcast, because yeah, that loving yourself and learning how to tune into your frequency, or just recognizing that you're tuned into a frequency. And as far as like channeling these higher frequencies and this stuff coming through, um I genuinely believe that we are always channeling all the time. It's just, what frequency are you channeling from? These are all different versions of yourself. Are you pulling from your highest self, or are you pulling from this hurt version of yourself? What version or what frequency are you pulling from? Because we are constantly moving through each one of these dimensions throughout every day. We're constantly fluctuating. Um, so yeah, but being able to tune into that and channel that higher frequency that is beyond yourself, it takes some practice, or really just opening yourself up to it, and
Yeah.
trusting it's true, it's happening.
And
uh,
and and getting that energy of love and oneness and
yes,
unity flowing through your being.
getting familiar with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the more familiar with it you are, the more that frequency begins to feel like home.
Yeah,
um
exactly. Because there is conditioning imposed upon us by the world that we need to overcome in order to open to hearing messages from other dimensions. Because that's so just in our popular culture, that kind of thing is mocked usually and derided.
and kind of like drilled home by like religious institutions
Yeah, but
and
not
like
just religion.
education and
Yeah, not just religion.
anything.
All the secular world or that we live in, the hyper rational world that we live in, trains us all to mock that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
judge, mock.
Hmm.
And of course, uh, I know those fears of like how that would be accepted by other people in my life certainly held me back from being authentic and true to myself for quite some time until I learned you were getting the same downloads.
Yeah, and I'm still a little
Yeah,
bit in the closet. I'm still careful about who
yeah.
I talk about this kind of stuff to, because it definitely, there are still people out there and that are gonna think I'm crazy for
Hmm.
for thinking that archangels are talking to me.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I love that we're in this place, where we can talk about it, and I appreciate you so much for coming here to
Mhm.
this platform to share that. That
Of
is
course.
it's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Maybe we could do another episode about how then together our spiritual connection started growing and going.
Yeah, that's a
When Yeah,
whole
another topic of
another
how we.
can of worms.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Mhm.
But yeah, I really want to encourage anyone, if you're getting messages like this as well, I would love to talk to you. Let's
Yeah, let's
normalize
normalize
this.
this.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And yeah, I guess this is just gonna stick with the theme of being as authentic as possible. And I
Yeah.
don't know what direction this podcast is gonna go, where we're gonna lead from here, but I'm all in. I'm for it. This is
Mhm.
rad. And thank you again for sharing that.
Of course,
And
happy to be here.
yay. And yeah, so check out our content out on embracelove.life. There is so much going on out there. Under the videos, you can find so many guided meditations, all different lengths, ranging from I think like 6 minutes to an hour. So whatever is suited for you. But you can check it out by the titles. And I think there's some shared like journeys that we did, guided meditation journeys we did together that yeah, some really great stuff. That's also where you're going to find the other episodes of Radiant Spirit, both before it became a podcast, where it's guided meditations, and once since it's become a podcast. So yeah, check out the website. And I feel like we're going to be putting more stuff out there, pictures, things like that, so you can get to know us a little bit better. So thank
Yeah, you
you.
can follow us on Facebook. Is an Embracing Love page, Facebook page, and a Facebook group called Embracing
Yes.
Love. And
Do we have an Instagram?
yeah,
Embracing Love?
embracelove.life on Instagram at embracelove.life.
Perfect. Embracing love, embracing it all. Well, mostly the love. I love it. Awesome. Thank you so much again. You're the best. And thank you so much for tuning in. I'm looking forward to having something more to share next week with you. So, yeah, that's it for this week. Peace out, everybody.